Welcome back, everybody, to the Deep Dive. Today, we are going to be looking at famous fictional detectives.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and you know what's really interesting? We're using this article, and it lists some of the most popular and prolific fictional detectives in history.
Nice.
And it starts off with something I never even thought about, and I bet you didn't either. Did you know that the word detective didn't even exist when Edgar Allan Poe wrote what's considered to be the first detective fiction story?
Wow, that's fascinating.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
I mean, it really begs the question, why were people even interested in reading these kind of stories back then?
It speaks to something inside all of us, right? To
Yeah.
solve mysteries.
Right.
To try and figure out the unknown.
Yeah.
And Poe, with his creation of Auguste Dupin, he really did. He gave birth to this archetype.
Yeah.
This archetype of the brilliant detective.
Well, he predates Sherlock Holmes, right?
Yes, even before Sherlock Holmes.
Wow.
And Dupin used analytical deduction, really relied on it, to solve crimes that baffled everyone else.
Wow.
Hmm.
So Poe was the first one to really do it.
Absolutely. He set the stage.
Yeah.
He set the stage for so many iconic detectives to come after.
And speaking of iconic detectives, let's talk about the big one. Sherlock Holmes.
Oh, the one and only.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, his popularity has lasted, what, over a century now?
Well over a century. And there's a reason for that.
Right.
It's that Conan Doyle was so clever, he didn't just create this brilliant detective, Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah.
He created a world around him that amplified his genius.
Right.
So you've got Dr. Watson,
Right.
who I think a lot of people don't understand. He's more than just a narrator.
Yeah.
He's like this foil to Sherlock Holmes, you know?
Right.
So everything that Watson is in awe of and admires just highlights even further how brilliant Holmes is.
Right.
And then you have these bumbling Scotland Yard detectives
Right.
that are always 2 steps behind.
Right.
And the criminals, so cunning, right? But ultimately always falling to Holmes's superior intellect.
Right, right. And Sherlock Holmes is such a unique character because he was almost like a robot. Like he didn't have time or the patience for love. He famously said it was abhorrent to his logical mind.
That's right. Conan Doyle made a very specific choice
Yeah.
with that aspect of the character. You know, no romantic entanglements. There were none for Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah.
And it really kind of reinforces his image as a purely rational being,
Right.
devoted entirely to truth, justice, you know.
Yeah.
It was a almost an obsession
Yeah.
that really, I think, explains his lasting appeal.
Okay, so we talked about Sherlock Holmes, this very flamboyant detective who was just so brilliant and almost larger than life.
Yeah.
But now let's talk about Hercule Poirot.
The stark contrast,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Very, very different.
Where Holmes is theatrical and larger than life, Poirot is quiet, introspective.
Yeah.
And he's got his Belgian origins and this meticulous nature.
Yeah.
And all of that kind of creates this mystique around him.
Yeah.
People constantly underestimate Poirot.
Right.
And that works to his advantage.
Right.
People kind of overlook him.
Yeah.
They dismiss him.
Right.
And it allows him to be this silent observer,
Right.
gathering crucial information.
So it's like the old saying, still waters run deep.
Exactly.
And he is living proof that sometimes the most unassuming characters have the sharpest minds.
And it's a really valuable lesson for all of us, isn't it?
Yeah.
We judge by appearances
Yeah.
all the time, but true brilliance can really kind of manifest in the most unexpected forms.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about detectives who I think are very, very familiar to people from a very young age.
Okay.
I'm talking about the Hardy Boys.
Right.
The Hardy Boys are synonymous with adventure and mystery. I mean, they're like the quintessential kid detectives.
That's right. The Hardy Boys, along with Nancy Drew,
right.
really represent this particular period
Yeah.
in detective fiction where it's aimed at younger audiences.
Right. Fast-paced stories, really engaging mysteries, and they're just relatable teenagers taking charge and solving problems that most adults would overlook.
That's right.
Yeah. Now here's something that's really interesting about the Hardy Boys, and it's the same thing with Nancy Drew. They were both created by ghostwriters.
That's right.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
Can you imagine the amount of creativity and collaboration that went into creating hundreds of these mysteries.
It is amazing.
Right.
And it really speaks to how enduring these characters are
Right.
and the power of collaborative storytelling.
Yeah, yeah. And speaking of Nancy Drew, she is a force in her own right. I mean, over 500 solved cases.
That is amazing.
That is an insane track record for anyone, let alone a teenager.
That's right. She embodies courage and independence.
Right.
And that sharp mind makes her a timeless role model.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, now, let's go way, way back in time
Okay.
to 12th century England
Okay.
and meet Brother Cadfael.
All right.
Now, this is a detective who has a background unlike any other that we've discussed.
Yeah, he really does.
Yeah.
Cadfael is a former soldier
Right.
turned Benedictine monk.
Right.
So he's living this life of peace and contemplation.
Yeah.
But his past is so rich.
Yeah.
As a crusader, as a man of the world, he's seen things.
Right.
And it gives him a unique understanding of human nature.
Right.
And that's what makes him so invaluable at solving crimes.
Right.
That happened within the abbey,
Right.
in the surrounding villages.
So it's that juxtaposition between his worldly past
Yes.
and his current spiritual present.
It's what makes him intriguing.
That makes him so intriguing. It's like he's constantly balancing these two sides of himself,
Exactly.
the warrior and the monk.
And that allows him to really understand the moral complexities
Yeah.
of the cases he encounters.
Right.
He wants justice,
Yeah.
but he also shows compassion and understanding for those involved.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, let's move on to another remarkable woman in detective fiction,
Okay.
Miss Marple.
Ah, Miss Marple, the master of hidden in plain sight.
Right.
She is an elderly spinster,
Yeah.
seemingly harmless,
Right.
unassuming,
Yeah.
and it allows her to move about her community,
Yeah.
observing all the nuances of human behavior
Yeah.
and those tiny little details
Yeah.
that people might dismiss as gossip.
Right.
She picks up on.
Yeah.
And time and again,
Yeah.
we see that those little details hold the key
Right.
to solving the most baffling crimes.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like she's almost a human lie detector.
Right.
She can notice those tiny little cracks in people's facades.
Absolutely.
Right. And it's proof that sometimes the quietest observer in the room is the one who sees the most.
Exactly. And it's a great reminder for all of us
Yeah.
to pay attention to the world around us.
Right.
You never know what you can learn just from watching and listening.
Absolutely, yeah. Okay, let's move on to a more modern detective, Alex Cross.
Okay.
He tackles some very intense cases,
Yes, he does.
often involving crimes against children.
That's right. And it shows a shift
Yeah.
in detective fiction towards these characters who are so deeply affected
Yeah.
by violence, by trauma.
Right.
You know, he's a detective and a psychologist. So that gives him this very unique understanding
Right.
of the criminal mind.
Right.
But it also, he's very vulnerable
Yeah.
to the emotional weight of his work.
Right.
It's more than a job for him.
Yeah.
It's deeply personal.
You can really feel his empathy, especially when children are involved.
Absolutely.
And it's that empathy that just adds so much complexity to his character and makes him all the more compelling, right?
And I think it reflects a trend in detective fiction to move beyond just purely procedure and delve into what crime solving does to a person.
Yeah.
The psychological and emotional toll
Yeah.
on those that dedicate their lives to it.
Right. It's a reminder that behind every case file, there's a real human story.
Absolutely.
And the detectives who solve them are often grappling with their own demons.
That's right.
Okay, let's move on to a detective who's got a very interesting side hustle.
Okay.
Adam Dalgliesh.
Adam Dalgliesh, yeah.
Have you heard of this guy?
I have. He's a very interesting blend of intellect
Okay.
and sensitivity.
Okay.
I mean, not only is he a highly respected detective,
Yeah.
he's a published poet.
Wow.
And it's not just a quirky detail.
Right.
His artistic sensibility really informs his detective work.
Okay.
It allows him to connect with the emotional core of the crimes that he investigates.
So it's like he sees the world through a very different lens.
Exactly.
One that's attuned to both the beauty and the darkness of human experience.
Yeah.
Right. And he's got this, I mean, the article even says he's tall, dark, and handsome. He's got this appeal to women.
It certainly adds to his mystique.
Right.
He's a very complex character.
Yeah.
And really defies easy categorization.
Right.
And, he leads this special squad
Yeah.
that handles sensitive cases.
Right.
So it further emphasizes his ability to navigate these really nuanced and emotionally charged situations.
So he's like a detective for the soul, right?
Exactly.
Unraveling the mysteries of the heart and the mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool. We've talked about a lot of detectives so far who kind of operate inside the box.
Yeah.
But let's talk about a detective who's a little bit outside the norm.
Okay.
And we ought to go back in time to do it.
Okay.
We're going all the way back to ancient Rome to meet Marcus Didius Falco.
Okay.
He's an ex-legionary
Wow.
turned private investigator.
Okay.
And his cases, they take him all across the Roman Empire.
I love it.
It's so interesting, right?
Yeah, what sets Falco apart from some of these other detectives we've talked about?
I think what's really interesting about Falco, he's got this cynicism about him.
Okay.
But at the same time, he's got heart. He's got this dry, witty humor.
Okay.
That makes him really relatable. Even though he lives in ancient Rome,
yeah.
he's seen the worst of humanity,
yeah.
but he hasn't lost his sense of empathy.
Right.
And he's got this uncanny ability to find humor in even the darkest situations.
That's great.
Isn't that neat?
Yeah, I like that. It's that mix of wit and compassion that I think makes him so compelling.
Yeah.
Like he's not just your typical stoic, brooding detective. He feels real and flawed, very human.
And that's what's so great about these stories. They expose us to this world that's so rich in history and culture and intrigue.
Yeah, it's almost like a detective story meets like a historical epic.
Exactly.
Okay, so from the ancient world, let's jump to something completely different.
Okay.
Let's talk about Dirk Gently.
Dirk Gently, this guy's
just out there. He's weird.
He's just weird. He's a force of nature, right?
Yeah.
He challenges like our very definition of what a detective can be.
Yeah.
He embraces chaos, absurdity.
Wow.
He believes that seemingly random events are all interconnected somehow.
Yeah.
I always think about how he was expelled from college for cheating because he correctly guessed all the answers on a test.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that great? I mean, it's that kind of offbeat thinking that makes him so unique.
Yeah, it's almost like he stumbles onto the truth
Right.
through a series of bizarre coincidences.
Right.
And, he's got this thing about the interconnectedness of all things that leads him down some really wild paths.
That's right.
Not your typical detective work.
Not at all.
But that's what makes him so refreshing. I mean, he reminds us that there's more to detective work than logic and deduction.
Yeah.
Sometimes a little bit of intuition and a little bit of chaos,
Can lead to a breakthrough.
Yeah, can lead to some unexpected breakthroughs.
Absolutely.
All right, now let's go from chaos to the refined world of Lord Peter Wimsey.
Yeah, Peter Wimsey.
Now, he's quite a contrast, isn't he? He's this aristocratic gentleman who kind of solves crimes for amusement.
That's right. But there's so much more to him than meets the eye.
Yeah.
He's a fascinating study. In contrast, he comes from privilege. He's wealthy.
Uh-huh.
But he is deeply affected by his experiences in World War I.
Okay.
Especially by shell shock.
Wow.
And I think it's this hidden pain that drives him to find meaning and purpose through this detective work.
So it's not just a game for him.
It's not just a game. It's much deeper than that.
It's a way to cope with his inner turmoil and make sense of a world that's been completely shattered by war.
That's exactly right. And that complexity makes him so much more compelling than your typical dilettante detective.
Yeah. Okay, speaking of unique detective duos, got to talk about Tommy and Tuppence.
Oh, Tommy and Tuppence, what a great pair.
Right. This husband and wife team, they're always up for a challenge.
Always up for a challenge, that's right.
And their banter is just delightful.
They really bring a sense of fun and adventure to detective fiction,
Yeah.
They're motivated by love, a love of puzzles.
Yeah.
And they love excitement.
Yeah.
And you know what? Let's be honest, they like a little financial gain too.
Right, of course.
But their partnership is what really shines.
Right.
They complement each other so well.
Yeah. They remind us that detective work can be a team effort.
Absolutely.
And sometimes, a shared sense of humor and adventure makes those dangerous situations a little more bearable.
That's right.
Yeah. All right, now let's shift our focus to India.
Okay.
And meet Byamkesh Bakshi.
Byamkesh Bakshi.
A pioneering figure in Indian detective fiction.
That's right.
He's often compared to Sherlock Holmes, and I think for good reason.
Yeah.
I mean, they both share this this sharp intellect and this very methodical approach to solving crimes.
Absolutely. And his enduring popularity in India really speaks to that.
Yeah, it's like this desire to unravel mysteries.
Yeah.
It exists everywhere in the world.
Everywhere.
Every culture.
Absolutely. And just like Holmes had Watson, Baumkesh has his own, sidekick.
Right.
Budgie,
Yeah.
who's his loyal friend and chronicler,
Right.
Documenting his cases and often providing a counterpoint
Right.
to his deductions.
It's that classic dynamic
Yes.
between the brilliant detective and the trusted companion.
Exactly. And it works every time.
It works every time.
And it also shows how important collaboration is and having a different perspective when you're trying to solve these complex problems.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Okay, from a classic detective in India, let's move to a more contemporary hero. Cormoran Strike.
Cormoran Strike.
He's a war veteran turned private investigator.
Yeah.
And he's dealing with a lot. He's dealing with physical injuries, personal demons, financial struggles.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not your typical polished, perfect detective.
No, he's definitely not.
Right.
He really represents this new breed of detective, somebody who's deeply flawed, but yet so incredibly relatable.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got PTSD, his relationships are complicated, he's constantly struggling to stay afloat financially.
Yeah.
I mean, he's grounded in a contemporary reality that I think people really connect with.
Yeah. And I think his partnership with Robin Ellicott
Oh, yeah.
really adds another dimension to his character.
Absolutely.
She's ambitious, she's intelligent, she's eager to learn the ropes of detective work.
She is, and I love their dynamic.
Yeah.
It starts as a mentorship,
Right.
but it becomes this real partnership.
Yeah.
Robin proves her worth time and time again.
Right.
She's not just the sidekick.
Yeah.
She's a detective in the making.
Yeah. And it shows that even the most jaded, cynical characters can find redemption and connection
Yeah.
through mentorship and collaboration.
Absolutely.
Okay, speaking of ambition, let's meet William Warwick.
William Warwick. Okay.
He's a newer addition to the world of fictional detectives.
Yeah, he's a newer character.
And he's dreamed of being a detective since he was a kid,
It's his childhood.
And he's really determined to make his mark.
He is, and I think his youthful idealism and determination really set him apart from some of the other detectives we've talked about. He's starting his career at Scotland Yard in the Arts and Antiquities Department.
Oh, wow.
So he's exposed to a unique set of crimes and challenges.
Yeah, so it's almost like a fresh perspective on detective fiction.
It is.
Right, with this young, eager detective kind of navigating this world of art theft and forgery and these historical mysteries.
Right, and to add even more intrigue to his story, there's this romance that's brewing with an art expert who's got her own secrets.
Oh, I like it.
So it's a classic case of love and deception.
I love it.
With William Warwick right there, caught in the middle.
Okay, so let's shift gears and go into the gritty world of hard-boiled detective fiction.
All right, I'm ready.
And let's start with the iconic Philip Marlowe.
Oh, Philip Marlowe.
Now, this guy, he embodies 1930s Los Angeles.
That's right, a city full of corruption, vigilance, moral ambiguity.
Yeah.
He's a cynical, world-weary detective.
Yeah.
Operates on his own terms with a strong sense of justice and this code of honor that guides him through these dark alleys and dangerous situations.
He is the quintessential hard-boiled detective.
He is.
Right. He's tough. He's resourceful. He's not afraid to bend the rules if he needs to.
That's right.
And the fact that he was expelled from the district attorney's office really hints at this rebellious streak.
Yeah.
And a willingness to stand up for what he believes in.
Absolutely. Even if it means going against the grain.
Right. So it's more than just a tough exterior.
Exactly.
It's like he's seen the flaws in the system.
Yeah.
And he's determined to fight for justice.
That's right.
Even if it means going outside the law.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. From one hard-boiled icon to another.
Okay.
Let's talk about Sam Spade.
Sam Spade, a true original.
Right. Known for his quick wit, cool demeanor, and just unwavering determination.
That's right. That's right.
He's considered a major influence on the genre.
He is.
And his stories continue to captivate readers with their fast-paced action, their moral complexity, and it's interesting. He appears in both novels and short stories.
He does, which is not something you see very often.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, he's a master of wordplay and deduction.
Yeah.
He's sharp. He's observant. He's always a step ahead.
Right.
And he's got this way of navigating the criminal underworld
Right.
with charm and cunning and a little bit of brute force.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a very compelling character.
Yeah, so he's got that classic tough exterior.
Yeah.
But there's like this intelligence and this vulnerability beneath the surface.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think it speaks to the enduring appeal
Yeah.
of the hard-boiled detective. They're like anti-heroes, you know?
Yeah.
Flawed, but driven by a desire for justice.
Right.
In a world that's very corrupt.
Yeah.
And unforgiving.
Right. Now let's talk about a detective who approaches crime solving from a completely different perspective.
Okay.
Father Brown.
Father Brown.
He's a Catholic priest who uses his understanding of human nature
Yeah.
and the complexities of sin to solve crimes.
Very unique.
It's a unique approach.
It is.
Very interesting.
It is. Father Brown, he challenges our expectations of what a detective can be. He's gentle, he's compassionate.
Yeah.
And he's so insightful.
Right, yeah.
You know, he uses his faith
Yeah.
to inform his understanding of human behavior.
Right.
And it allows him to see the reasons behind these criminal acts
Yeah.
in a way that other detectives miss.
Yeah, it's like he's looking into people's souls.
Yeah.
Right? Searching for the root of their darkness.
Yeah.
And their capacity for redemption.
Absolutely.
And his unassuming nature.
Yeah.
I think it throws criminals off guard.
Yeah.
You know, making him a surprisingly effective investigator.
And it reminds us that true understanding comes from empathy.
Yeah.
And a willingness to see the world through the eyes of others, even those that have done terrible things.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, from the world of faith and redemption.
Okay.
Let's travel to the streets of Paris and meet Inspector Maigret.
Inspector Maigret.
Now, this is a detective known for his methodical approach, his love of good food and wine.
Yeah.
And his deep understanding of the human condition.
Yeah.
What makes Maigret stand out in this world of so many detectives?
You know, Maigret's a master of observation and psychology.
Okay.
He's patient, he's meticulous, he's deeply empathetic.
Yeah.
He doesn't use these flashy techniques or gadgets.
Right.
You know, he relies on intuition, his ability to connect with people,
Yeah.
and his understanding of why people do what they do.
Right. And it's interesting, you know, he often shares a meal or a drink with suspects to gain their trust and observe their behavior.
Right. It's a very subtle but
Yeah.
effective technique.
Yeah.
You know, he knows that people open up more when they're comfortable and relaxed. And those moments of shared intimacy often reveal things that you would miss in a formal interrogation setting.
Yeah. It's fascinating how he uses those simple pleasures to his advantage.
Right.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And it shows that he understands people.
Yeah.
He gets it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about a lot of detectives who are out there pounding the pavement, right? They're in the streets knocking on doors.
Yeah.
But now let's talk about a detective who's a little different.
Okay.
He prefers to stay home,
Mm-hmm.
you know. He's a homebody.
Okay.
This is Nero Wolfe.
Nero Wolfe.
A bit of an eccentric genius.
Okay.
Right. I mean, he is brilliant, but he's also irascible.
Okay.
And he really, really loves his creature comforts.
Okay.
He rarely leaves his brownstone.
Wow.
And he relies on his sharp mind, his team of loyal associates, and his passion for orchids to solve these baffling crimes.
That's so interesting. It's like he's created his own little world.
He has.
Right, inside his brownstone.
He has his own sanctuary.
Right, where he can just indulge his intellect.
Yeah.
His love of the finer things in life.
Absolutely.
And yet he's still drawn to solving mysteries.
He is. It's the paradox of Nero Wolfe, right? Yeah. He shuns the outside world, but yet he's fascinated by human behavior.
And it's interesting that he has this team that he relies on. Yeah. Especially Archie Goodwin.
Archie Goodwin, right?
It really highlights the importance of collaboration.
Yes.
Even for the most brilliant minds.
Even for the most brilliant minds, yeah. No one's an island.
Right.
Even the most independent thinkers need help.
Right.
They need the insights, the support of others.
Absolutely. Okay, now let's talk about another detective who operates outside that traditional realm of law enforcement.
Okay.
Jessica Fletcher.
Jessica Fletcher.
She's a mystery writer.
She is.
Who always seems to stumble upon real-life crimes.
It's amazing how often that happens.
Right.
Yeah.
Wherever she goes.
Jessica Fletcher, she's just this wonderful blend of sharp wit and folksy charm.
Yeah.
She's like everyone's favorite aunt who just happens to solve murders.
Right. Exactly.
And her career as a mystery writer gives her this unique insight into the criminal mind. You know, she can see things that other people miss.
She's almost living out her own mysteries.
She is.
But with real stakes.
Absolutely. And she's got this way about her, this unassuming nature that really kind of disarms people.
Yeah.
So they reveal things that might not otherwise.
Yeah, she's a master of observation and deduction.
She is.
But she also understands people.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
She can see the why of what they do.
Yes, the motivations that drive people to do these things.
And finally, we have Kinsey Milne.
Kinsey Milne.
A sharp, resourceful private investigator who's not afraid to take on the tough cases.
No, she's not.
What sets her apart from some of these other female detectives that we've discussed?
You know, Kinsey's a real independent spirit.
Oh, yeah.
She used to be a police officer.
Oh.
But she got disillusioned with all the bureaucracy and the corruption that she witnessed.
Yeah.
So she decided to strike out on her own to pursue justice on her own terms.
And that background as a cop really gives her a unique perspective.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
On the criminal justice system.
Yeah.
Both the good and the bad.
That's right. And, she's got this hard-boiled detective vibe.
Yeah.
But with a modern feminist twist.
Yeah.
She's tough. She's resourceful. She doesn't back down from authority.
Right.
And she has this thing. She likes to take on cases that really champion the underdog.
Yeah, I like that. That's cool.
And we can't forget her series, it's structured in such a unique way.
Yeah.
Each book title starts with a letter of the alphabet.
Oh, wow.
From A is for alibi to Y is for yesterday.
That's a great hook.
It's a great way to keep people coming back for more.
Yeah, it's almost like a literary scavenger hunt.
It is, it is.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground today. We've really gone deep into the world of famous fictional detectives.
From all different eras and cultures.
Yeah, what really stands out to you from this deep dive?
You know, it's amazing to me that all of these characters, they're so different.
Yeah.
They come from different backgrounds, different time periods. They all have their own unique methods.
Yeah.
But they all share one thing in common.
What's that?
They all have this relentless pursuit of the truth.
Yeah.
They may have flaws, they may have quirks, they may have their own ways of approaching a case.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, they want justice.
Yeah.
And they're often putting themselves at risk.
Right. It's that unwavering commitment to justice.
Yes.
That willingness to confront the darkness.
Yes.
That I think makes them so enduring.
They do. They really do.
And I think it's why we are so drawn to detective fiction.
Yeah.
It gives us a sense of order in a world that often feels chaotic.
Yeah.
Right.
Very unpredictable.
Yeah. These detectives with their brilliant minds and their unwavering determination.
Yeah.
They're a reassuring presence.
Absolutely.
They're a reminder that even the most complex mysteries can be solved.
That's right. And as we've seen, there's a detective out there for everyone.
Yeah.
You know, maybe you like the classic deduction of Sherlock Holmes. Maybe you like the psychological insights of Alex Cross.
Yeah.
Or the historical intrigue of Brother Cadfael.
Yeah.
Or maybe you just love the grit of Philip Marlowe.
Yeah.
There's something for everyone.
Right. And on that note, we've reached the end of our deep dive.
We have.
Into the world of famous fictional detectives.
Very interesting.
I hope everybody enjoyed it, and I hope you learned some interesting things along the way.
Me too.
Until next time, keep those detective minds sharp. And remember, the world is full of mysteries, just waiting to be solved.
That's right.